Today, I would like to talk to you about 3 beliefs that prevent any person from developing. In general, this topic concerns everyone. In a modern world, it is impossible not to develop because the world is becoming dynamic. The world is dynamic, and moreover, it becomes more complex every day. Therefore, the topic of self-development concerns everyone, and it is important for each of you. And here it is very important to understand which beliefs hinder you in successful self-development. Why is it important to watch this video to the end? Because the beliefs that limit you in your development do not go away on their own over the years. Moreover, the situation even gets worse. These beliefs become overgrown with new beliefs, and you become heavier. It becomes even more difficult for you to develop. So, as usual, like this video, subscribe, and let's get started. And the first belief that interferes with development is the belief that was once described by psychologists Dunning and Kruger. This effect is called exactly that, the Dunning-Kruger effect. What is its essence? The essence lies in the fact that the less competent a person is, the more confident they are. The more competent a person is, the more doubts and lack of confidence they have. A person goes through certain stages. The first stage is called unconscious incompetence, when a person does not even realize that they are incompetent, but at the same time they are absolutely confident because they have no doubts. They have hammered one idea into their head and they are strongly convinced of it. At this stage, self-confidence is usually present. People make certain overconfident actions, and then this leads to mistakes. The second stage is false competence. False competence is when a person considers themselves competent. The third stage is conscious incompetence, when a person realizes that they are incompetent. And from this moment, a person begins to develop further and to realize their competence or incompetence. From this moment, the real development of a person begins. For example, in aviation, when I began to engage in aviation, I looked at the statistics of aviation accidents for myself. And, I saw an interesting graph. First, it turns out that the largest number of accidents occurs at the initial stage, when a person has accumulated up to 100 flight hours. Then, from 100 hours to approximately 1,200 flight hours, the accident rate only decreases. Statistics show that the accident rate only goes down. Starting somewhere around 1,200 flight hours, the accident rate sharply increases again and reaches a second peak. And somewhere around 1,700 to 1,800 flight hours, the accident rate goes down, down. And somewhere in the range of 5,000 to 6,000 flight hours, the accident rate makes another small peak. And after that, it only continues to decrease up to 10,000 flight hours. What does this indicate? Look, first of all, when newcomers arrive and have just learned to fly an aircraft, they develop unconscious incompetence. Look, first of all, at the beginning, they are afraid of everything. And this is where they have accidents because they do not understand, they are incompetent, they do not know. Then, at some point, when they have more or less learned to fly and begin flying from 100 hours to 1,200 hours, they fly and their competence increases, and at some moment they begin to feel that they already know everything. They think they know everything, and false competence appears. They think they have already seen everything, and after 1,200 hours the accident rate increases again, and the second peak appears. After that, a person realizes that they are incompetent, begins to be more cautious, and the accident rate begins to decrease. And around 5,000 to 6,000 flight hours, a person develops certain blinders. They're already experienced. They get the feeling that they have seen everything and know everything. And they begin to neglect safety procedures. They begin to neglect certain procedures that directly affect safety. Interestingly, this Dunning-Kruger effect is not a division of people into stupid and smart. It is something that every person actually goes through when they start doing something. For example, if you want to take up photography, you will definitely go through all these stages. The first stage is unconscious incompetence. The second stage is false competence, when you learn to take your first shots and think, oh, how easy it is. But it turns out that in reality, it is not so simple at all. And then comes the third stage, when you realize that it is much more difficult than it seemed to you before. At this point, the third stage appears, conscious incompetence. And starting from conscious incompetence, you already step onto the direct path of self-development and self-improvement. The next belief that prevents us from developing is something I have noticed. By the age of 40 to 50, it varies, of course, but on average, people begin to think that they have already seen almost everything in life. They think they have seen everything, know everything, been everywhere, that they are experienced, seasoned, and so on. And what is most interesting is that the more events a person has witnessed, the more they have been in the thick of things, the more intense and eventful their life has been, the more they fall into this illusion that they already know everything in life and have seen everything. And this experience, layered over a person for years, creates the illusion that the world is predictable, that in general the same patterns work everywhere, and that there is no particular point in studying something new, because everything somehow repeats itself. And this experience becomes a very heavy burden. What does this experience tell us? Experience tells us that since I've already seen a lot, whatever happens will simply repeat what happened in the past. But the future is always unpredictable. The future always comes to us not when we expect it, not in the way we expect it, and not in the form we expect it. And therefore, it is practically impossible to prepare for the future 100%. So having experience is, of course, a good thing, but I would recommend treating experience as a kind of reference guide. That is, you study a certain topic, and then you look at your experience to see whether it correlates with it or not. Therefore, the second belief that greatly hinders our development is the belief that we know everything, that we have seen everything, and that we could do everything. That is why I would recommend being more cautious with your own experience and not overestimating it. And the third belief, or I would even say not just a belief, but an entire complex of beliefs, is incorrect logic. Very often, our everyday logic does not correspond to correct logic. What I want to talk about here, there's a certain chronological sequence, and there's a cause and effect sequence of events, so very often people confuse chronological sequence with cause and effect sequence. If some event happened after something else, people very often think that it happened because of that. And here I would like to clearly explain that if an event happened after something, it does not mean it happened because of it. And this is very important, especially in business and in relationships between people. You know, in Kaizen technology, there is such a rule. You must clearly follow the cause and effect chain. Let me give an example so it is easier to understand. Let's suppose the wind started blowing and leaves began to fall from a tree. Our everyday logic assumes that the leaves fell because the wind blew. But in reality, the leaves fell because autumn came. And here there is a second layer that is very important to distinguish. These are surface causes and root causes. So, in order to better understand cause and effect relationships and not get confused, and to find root causes when solving problems, until you eliminate the root cause of the problem will not be solved. For this, in Kaizen technology, there's a tool called the 5 whys. When some event happens, you ask the question, why? 5 times. Let me illustrate this using the example with the leaves. First, the leaves fell. Why? Because the wind blew. Why did the wind blow? Or why did the leaves fall? Here there could be 2 branches. The wind blew because the weather is getting worse, and the leaves fell because autumn came. And why do leaves fall when autumn comes? Because it gets cold, the sap in the trees stops flowing, and the leaves die. And why does the sap stop flowing and the leaves die? Because it gets cold. And why does it get cold? Because the season changed. I won't go further into explanations about the sun, the Earth moving to a more distant part of its orbit, and so on. But the essence is this. We understand that the root cause is the change of season. And if you ask 5 why questions, you will always come to the root cause, which, by the way, is much easier and cheaper to solve. Along the way, I'll give you one good life hack. Every time you encounter any problem, you should know that it has already been proven. Solving the root cause is much cheaper, easier, and faster than dealing with the consequences. Therefore, when incorrect logic interferes with your self-development, in order to remove it, always make it a rule or a habit to dig down to the root causes. And this tool, The 5 whys will not allow you to stray from the correct cause and effect chain. In general, since I spend a lot of time on self-development and also encourage many people to do the same, and since a very large number of different life situations from different people pass through my hands, this topic interests me as a whole. I often discuss it in my Telegram channel, so follow the link to the Telegram channel, where we will talk in more detail about all these things.